Hey y'all, it's Nate from Soul Friend Astrology. This may not be news to many of you, but to some of you it may still be new. If you haven't heard yet, Jupiter has come home to roost in one of his home signs of Sagittarius. Yes, Jup is back home, finally, after a 12-year sojourn away from anything that he rules. He had a little bit of a brief respite a couple of years ago when he was in Cancer, but now he's back at home, where he has access to everything that he needs. All of his favorite shows are on the DVR, all of his favorite drinks are in the fridge, there's a fresh bottle of Woodford Reserve sitting on the counter with his name on it, and he's very excited because wherever Sagittarius falls in your chart, he will be bringing expansion and innovation and new energy to that area. Jupiter is what we call the greater benefic, and he has natural significations, or rather natural relationships, with things like law and justice and equity and joy and gift giving, and he's kind of like Saint Nicholas. If you know the Saint Nicholas myth, he was based on a real person, Nicholas, the bishop of Myra and Lycia in Turkey, who in his early days intervened to prevent 3 young women from being sold into sex slavery by providing for the financial needs that they needed in order to pay down a dowry debt. And later on, after Nicholas of Myra and Lycia became bishop, he became known as this really incredible wonder worker. And so we have this kind of Jupiter archetype in the character of Saint Nicholas, who has now become the Santa Claus of legend. So if you can imagine a big celestial Santa Claus transiting whatever house Sagittarius falls in your chart for the next 13 months and just doling out gifts aplenty for you and for all those around you, especially if Sagittarius falls in one of the houses related to groups or neighborhoods or communities. For me, Sagittarius falls in my 10th and 11th houses, so Jupiter will be passing through the sectors of my chart related to career and related to groups and associations and friends. But maybe for you, Jupiter will be passing through your 3rd house. Say you have Sagittarius in the 3rd house. That means Jupiter will be bringing growth and expansion and innovation to your local community, the area around you, what you're doing in your day-to-day environment, and bringing good things with him. Now, the issue with Jupiter is that sometimes you can, in fact, have too much of a good thing. So be on the lookout for that as well. Too much Jupiter looks like maybe enjoying one too many glasses of bourbon. Maybe too much Jupiter looks like trying to party a little too hard. And especially over the next couple of months, as we're up on the holiday season, we'll definitely feel this because we've got a lunation on the 23rd of November, where the sun will be in Sagittarius, having just ingressed into Sagittarius, and the moon will be in Gemini. That's the Gemini full moon. So we'll really experience that over Thanksgiving weekend as this illumination of wherever Sagittarius falls in your chart and wherever Gemini falls in your chart, because they'll be at an opposition at that point. The reason for that is because lunation, so a full moon or a new moon, really highlight what is happening in those sectors of your chart. So do pay attention to that. But what I'm more excited about, because there are plenty of astrologers that talk about full moons and new moons, that's not anything really interesting. What I'm really interested in is the Jupiter cazimi. What's a cazimi? As the sun appears to move around the sky each year, especially in terms of the outer planets, so in terms of Jupiter, Mars, and Saturn, they're not in that order. Mars, Jupiter, and Saturn, the sun will conjoin them about once a year or once every 9 months, depending on the speed of the planet. The sun will conjoin them about once a year. It varies from year to year because of the varying speeds at which the planets orbit the sun. And of course, remember, this is an apparent coming together of the planets. They're not actually joining together. The planets are not actually being consumed in the fires of the sun. But from our vantage point here on Earth, it looks like that. And what happens with a cazimi is that the planet I'm speaking of outer planet cazimi, so Mars, Jupiter, Saturn here. A planet will appear to pass behind the sun, and we'll stop seeing it at a certain point as it sets in the west, and then it will rise again in the east as a morning star, which is a really exciting visual phenomenon. But what does that mean in terms of symbolism? It means essentially a fresh start. If you imagine the way that a snake or any kind of animal that needs to shed its skin, whether a snake or an arthropod, an insect or something, or even perhaps a butterfly coming out of its chrysalis, needs to struggle and push and shed and be reborn into its next stage of life, that's kind of what a cazimi does for the planets. So Jupiter will pass behind the sun, and he'll disappear for a few days and then be reborn a few days later as this new, fresh, juicy Jupiter, fresh out of the cocoon, fresh out of the fires of rebirth. And what's interesting about this particular cazimi is that Jupiter is naturally benefic. He's naturally willing to accept the kind of help that he can get, if it's coming to him from a place in the zodiac that he rules or has strong associations with. And the great thing about this cazimi is that the sun is coming to Jupiter to help him clean house, right, from Jupiter's own sign. So the sun's going to carry all of this Sagittarius flavor with it to Jupiter. It's as though Jupiter has gotten home and is ready to invite a friend in to help him clean up. And then right after that, we also get a new moon in the first week of December, where that new moon will initiate a new start. So if you've ever seen the if you've ever seen the show Clean House with Niecy Nash, I think it became Clean House with Tempest Bledsoe later on. It's still a good show either way. If you've ever seen that show, you know that Niecy Nash comes in with all of her energy and with the moving crew, and then the person she's working with has to decide what stays on the keep pile and what goes on the sale pile, and then what goes on the donate pile. So really, this Sun-Jupiter cazimi is Niecy Nash coming to Jupiter's house and saying, look at all this stuff. We gotta clean house. But if you know that show, it's never just about getting all of the stuff out, right? It's never just about tidying up. It's really about giving the person a fresh start. You also see it with the show Hoarders. And the thing with Jupiter is that Jupiter can be a hoarder. Jupiter can hold on to things. Jupiter can hold on to good things, right? Pleasant memories and enjoyment and fun and all of that. But Jupiter can also hold on to some bad stuff as well, because it's his nature to expand out and encompass everything. So maybe as this Jupiter cazimi happens on the 26th, some things will come to the fore for you in the area where Sagittarius falls in your chart that you need to pay attention to. What's being brought up? What are you being asked to thank and let go of? If you've ever read Marie Kondo's The Life-Changing Magic of Tidying Up, that's very much the energy of a cazimi. So for instance, if Sagittarius falls in your 8th house, which is related to taxes and to other people's money, and also to death and also to debt, you may experience some sort of clean house energy in your relation to other people's money. You may decide that it's finally time to buy your own copies of the software that you're using. You may decide that you need to go ahead and get your taxes set up for the next couple of months, especially as we're turning the corner into next year's tax season. But there may be events in your life that cause you to reflect on the gift of life, right? If there's something that you're grieving that you've not quite let go of, this may actually be a really lovely opportunity for you to let go of that in the spirit of the holiday season, because this is a holy time not just for the mainstream religious traditions. As we approach the winter solstice, as we get the gift of this Jupiter cazimi and the new moon in Sagittarius, this is a holy time for all of us to celebrate what has been past, to clean house, and to make ready for the gifts that come with the rebirth of the sun at the winter solstice. So hold that in mind over the next couple of weeks. I know for many of us out there, Thanksgiving, Christmas, Hanukkah, the other holidays are rife with tension. But remember, that you are not alone in this. Thanks so much for being with us today, and be sure to hit the subscribe button, find me on Twitter, and we'll connect there. Thanks again.